We're now halfway between Thomas Tuchel taking over as England manager in January and the World Cup final next summer. So the perfect time to assess exactly where England are at, with two of the most experienced England journalists around who've both followed them home and away for more than a decade. Thomas Tuchel's mission is very, very clear. Match what the Lionesses and the men's under-21s have done. Bring a trophy to the men's senior team. Can he win the World Cup next summer? With that in mind, he has one key message for his players.
The competition is on. It's on. It's on. The competition is on. If we say the competition is on, then the competition is on.
So we're on the eve of a friendly with Wales, which is anything but a friendly, but we needed to get two of the most experienced guys we possibly could. They had been around this England circuit for a lot longer than me, and longer than I can remember. Simon Peach from PA Media. How long? How many tournaments?
6 tournaments so far, hopefully a couple more.
That's incredible. But Henry wins. Henry beats everybody. Come on.
How many tournaments? Well, the first one, Italia 90 onwards, so it'll be 10 next year, World Cups.
Henry Winter from Sports Illustrated. Guys, listen, thanks for your time first and foremost. The biggest topic, without a doubt, is Jude Bellingham. It's all that we've been talking about since that news conference on Friday at Wembley, where we expected, when Thomas Tuchel gave his opening gambits to explain his decision, that he would say, well, I certainly expected him to say, look, he's coming back from injury. We had a chat with him and the Real Madrid's medical team and we decided it was best he sat this one out. He didn't say that. He said, Jude Bellingham wanted to be selected. I decided not to select him. And that struck very hard with me. What did you make of it?
Well, first, I think it's a mistake. I think if England are going to go far in the tournament next summer, they're going to need players of Jude Bellingham's ability. He has to be not only in the squad, but in the team. He's England's best number 10, playing off Harry Kane. We've been through this with tournaments before. There's just been you can go back to Hoddle, where there's a slight doubt about our most skillful, our most world-class player. And I like the who else, the swagger to him. If he was an American sportsman, we'd be going, why can't we develop players with that sort of arrogance? Does Ronaldo get criticised? Probably does get criticised a bit for this. I'm Cristiano Ronaldo, there's this, not entitlement, but there's, I know how good I am. I like that about him. And I think the fact that Gareth Southgate, well, you were there a year ago, Peachy was there a year ago, Gareth Southgate included him in his 4-man leadership group, shows the respect that the players had and still have for Jude Bellingham. So I find it very odd. I think you look at Bukayo Saka, who's not completely fit either. He hasn't been playing that regularly for Arsenal. I don't really buy the rhythm, the injury element. With a player like Jude Bellingham, every second at St George's Park, training, meetings, just building up connections, understanding exactly what the manager wants, I think is absolutely vital, and he should be here, and I think it's a mistake.
Quite interestingly, when we were speaking to Thomas Tuchel at Wembley, he said that if Noni Madueke had been fit, then Bukayo Saka probably wouldn't have been in the squad as well, which would have been another mistake, because he kind of contradicts himself. I do like Thomas Tuchel, but he, on one hand, he's saying we don't have any camps together, we've got a limited time, and then at the same time, you're not selecting your best players. Now, I understand with Jude Bellingham, he isn't at full fitness, but he has to be back next month. Otherwise, it's kind of making a mockery of the thing. If you're preparing for a major tournament, one shot as it stands under Tuchel's contract, you've got to have your best players working together. And I know it's a hard yardstick to measure when you're playing a Latvia with respect in a World Cup qualifier, but you have limited time, and if you don't do it now, when else are you going to do it?
That's the bit that I didn't get, I've got to be honest, is that he said that as soon as he took the job, he said, look, I've got 5 camps. And I've got to get to know the players, get them to learn my ways and my philosophy, work out a system that suits them. There's part of me that hugely respects the fact that he's turned round after that 5-0 win in Serbia, in Belgrade, and said, look, you guys have performed very well. It's been a really positive camp. I'm going to give you another go. I like that idea, but when the practicality means that Phil Foden's back to his best and isn't here, Jude Bellingham is Jude Bellingham with everything that you've described, and he's not here. Jack Grealish is playing incredibly well. I think that's a slightly different one for me with Jack Grealish. There's a hell of a lot of competition in the position he's in. I think it's a subjective one whether you pick him or not. But with all that in mind, it does feel like a strange decision.
If he'd come out and talked at Wembley and said, Jude Bellingham is a fantastic footballer, I did actually call him a special player. And he is, let's not forget, last week he was voted as England's Player of the Year, so he's obviously got something going for him. If he'd come out and said, Jude Bellingham's going to have a really hectic year, Europe and in Spain as well, I'm actually going to give him these 10 days off and actually just give him that break, because what I want Jude Bellingham is to be fit for. So it's 8 games, it could be next summer, 7-8 games, and it's going to be hot. I covered USA 94 and it's hot, and it was melting being in the press box, let alone what it's going to be like on the pitch. So, you know, you're going to need a fit for it, and he's played a lot of games, Jude Bellingham. So if you'd actually come out and said, listen, for long-term reasons, I am going to rest Jude Bellingham for this guy, I would have totally accepted that. But this rhythm, he's not completely fit, and he's not completely killing the narrative in certain corners of the attitude problem. I like Bellingham's attitude. I do like that. So I go, England are going to need that.
There wouldn't be this debate we're having now if he'd have said on Friday what you just suggested he could have said. That Jude Bellingham needs a rest, he's going to be really important for us, or that he's recovering from injury and we've had a chat with Real Madrid's medics. But he didn't. He was honest with us. He said, look, Jude wanted to be here, I've not selected him.
But one thing that he did, I believe it's your question, Henry, when you asked about his absence, he did explain that, well, if he's not fit for the World Cup, what do you expect us to do? Do you expect us not to go? So I understand that he's trying to find solutions, but then that doesn't quite tally with Phil Foden, who we've all agreed has been in great form at the start of the season, but has never really transferred that to the England scene. Surely you need a player like him in the camp to work out how best to get his skill set to work for England. So, as I said, contradictions here and there.
Would we all agree that England's best 3 number 10s are, probably in this order, but arguably, Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden?
Yeah.
And
Morgan Rogers isn't far away.
okay, but of those 3, none of them are here, and 2 of them are not here by choice. By the England manager's choice not to select them. It's only Cole Palmer of those 3 that's injured. That just seems strange to me when you've got 2 camps between now and the time that Thomas Tuchel has to select his World Cup squad.
He's a big game player, and some people have got an issue with what they perceive as Jude Bellingham's attitude. And for me, that attitude is about being a winner. And at the risk of dragging Tuchel's beloved mother into the equation again, the fact that someone like her had an issue with Bellingham, regardless of how it was translated, repulsive, or whatever word he meant to use, the fact that she was objecting to a footballer who was a natural born winner having a go at people on the pitch, okay, but actually those are the type of players who win, because he's got that winning mentality, because he can't believe the referee made that decision, because he's shouting at Henderson in games when he was a teenager with England, demanding those standards. And I'm sorry, this is probably the last World Cup I will cover for England, and I want them to go out with all their aces on the table. And Jude Bellingham with Harry Kane and 1 or 2 others, he's our ace.
Right, let's move it on. We're 6 games in now to Thomas Tuchel's reign. 5 wins, 1 defeat against Senegal in a friendly. He was going to win those 5 anyway, let's be honest, he should have done. Very impressive against Serbia. What's your assessment of him so far? And when I say assessment, let's talk on the pitch first and we'll go on to off the pitch.
On the pitch, I'm a little underwhelmed apart from Serbia. Maybe it's some of the squad selections. We spoke about Jude Bellingham's absence, Phil Foden's absence for the past 5 minutes, but I don't feel really enthused this close to a World Cup by the group. I'd love them to prove me wrong. I think the Andorra games have been worrying because we're going to have to play low blocks at that tournament. It's an expanded tournament with so lesser sides, lesser nations in terms of their football capabilities will be there. And if we can't break down an Andorra, who I think are the 4th worst team in Europe, 3rd worst, we're going to struggle when we're playing a slightly better but still defensively minded team.
Isn't Thomas Tuchel and this England squad going to be judged in what happens in the knockout games? And that's, you would hope, not a low block. That's a bit more when three games are probably going to define Thomas Tuchel's legacy. If he's only got 1 tournament to go for, how they do in the round of 16, the quarterfinals and hopefully beyond, will dictate whether he's done well or not, won't it?
Yeah, that will. But we're looking at what we've seen so far.
Yeah,
that's the issue. Like, I have no doubt that England will step up when they get to North America, but at the moment you're judging it on games that they should win and then the manner of them. I'm excited to start next year. Kind of feels like we're just getting this year out of the way, so come March we can step it up again. And I think probably the squad next month will be the one that is more resembles the finals squad than this one.
The strange thing is that the impression I got, and you guys have spoken to Thomas Tuchel a lot as well, the impression that he gave us was that he'd experiment up until this autumn. But these autumn internationals, where he had a September, October, November camp, he'd have the players together, pretty frequently. if you like, this was when the real business happened. And yet, having left the big guns out, it still feels to me like he's still experimenting almost.
I think he is an elite level coach, a tactician who, I agree with you. I think we'll probably see the best of Tuchel when it comes to setting up the team emotionally as well as tactically to play against the elite teams in the knockout stages from probably the quarterfinals onwards. That's when Tuchel can properly be judged. But one thing absolutely has to be stressed. England have got some good players. This is, you look at the fact that we've mentioned all these players who are not in the squad. I mean, you and I were just sort of looking over and just sort of watching some of the players going past, and you look at Declan Rice there, and Marcus Rashford's revived in Barcelona. England had a problem on the left at the last Euros. Anthony Gordon is doing superbly. Madueke can play either side. Eze can obviously play out there. Rashford can play out there. England have got strength and depth.
I'm going to ask you about your 11, your starting 11 for England's first
I'm just
World
making
Cup.
the point that England have got a squad.
You're quite
a good squad.
You're 100% right. But Peachy, let me ask you, did that Serbia performance shift the dial for you? Was that and the image of what we expect Tuchel's side to look like? What this England team... Because I think we've all said, not sure what the philosophy is, not sure what's the identity of Thomas Tuchel's England right now. Did we see it in Serbia?
More so, yeah. We were saying that was the first test. That was the first stress test of this squad and his style, and we passed it with flying colours. I did not expect a 5-0 win.
No.
I thought maybe a 2-1 if we were lucky. 5-0 was incredible, and I know it was a difficult night in Belgrade for a number of different reasons locally, but we took advantage, and that's all you can ask for. And as Henry said, our squad, never mind the squad, the players beyond it, strength and depth that other nations would kill for, other top nations as well in certain positions. Yeah, there are some problem positions, as Henry alluded to, but also there are young talents coming through that hopefully can develop into starters.
Welcome back to St George's Park and our informal chat, looking at what Thomas Tuchel has done so far and what might be around the corner for England. We've got Henry Winter from Sports Illustrated and Simon Peach from PA Media with us. Guys, really interesting so far. I want to talk about Harry Kane, because the strange thing is we don't talk about him very often. We just kind of accept he's doing what he does. But 18 goals this season in 10 matches already. England's all-time leading goal scorer by a mile, and just extending that every time we see him play. Is he absolutely essential to England's chances at the World Cup? If Harry Kane's not fit, can we not win it?
Well, let's hope we're not that wedded to one player. But obviously, we've seen over the recent tournaments, the plan B changes every single tournament. You had Dominic Calvert-Lewin here when we were at the Euros in 2020, 21. In Qatar, you had Callum Wilson. In the last Euros, you had Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins. Ivan Toney doesn't seem to be an option for Tuchel anymore. Is a rotating cast of people that haven't quite grabbed hold of that jersey or shown that they can be the long-term backup. So that would be more of a concern to me than the Harry aspect. I think we do have the quality of strikers to step in if the rest of the team is right. But yeah, I mean, as you say, Harry Kane it's easy to remember 10 years ago, Henry and I were in the Czech Republic at the Under-21 Euros, and there was a crisis injury on the start of the tournament. I don't know if you remember it.
Saido Berahino. I was there as well.
Yeah.
So they had to play the backup Harry Kane. It worked out.
I remember that tournament very well, because the point is that Harry Kane was often playing out wide. He was still on loan at a lot of clubs at the time. He was playing as a right winger at times and being used like that. And all of the talk was about Saido Berahino. Nobody knew who Harry Kane was. You take that from where he was there to where he is now, and I'm staggered. I'm staggered at the impact he has and just how important he is to England.
I worry of all the positions, the drop off between first choice and backup. And you're only going to play one striker. Tuchel will play 4-2-3-1. He'll probably play Bellingham, and then Gordon or Rashford left, and Saka. He has to be, otherwise
You're not going. He's not going to the
I'm going to be on the runway at Heathrow or Luton or Gatwick, wherever it is, just sort of saying, ground them now. No, Bellingham has to start, clearly. But Kane he's just remarkable. He's never been completely reliant on pace, so that element is with him in his 30s. But it's just, he's just a role model. It was interesting, I think it was one of you guys were there when Liam Delap was training with the under-21s, and then he got called over to train with the seniors. And he came back and he spoke to us by the side of the pitch, and he said it was just an education, just watching the ruthless, clinical, relentless finishing of Harry Kane after training again and again again and again. He is just the perfect expression of the appliance of marginal gains. Just the way he's got a nutrition, the way everything around him, there's sort of Team Kane, family, agents, advisors, nutritionists, sports scientists. He is a fabulous role model, just also a very, very likeable individual as well. And I mean, you mentioned his numbers. What's he, mid-70s at the moment in terms of goals that he scored for England? I mean, you were talking to him, and I remember listening in on the press conference. I think it was at Tottenham, and he was asked, "Do you think you can get to 100?" And I just guffawed. I said, "No way he's going to get to 100 England goals." But actually, if he plays for another couple of years,
it looks achievable,
you know. And if he plays as a 10, but I do worry without Kane, who is going to step in? Ollie Watkins, good off the bench. Solanke, there are injuries, possibly. I wouldn't be completely surprised. No. Delap.
I was about to say exactly that. For me, Ollie Watkins is struggling a little bit this season in a Villa side that's been struggling until of late. I think they've won 4 on the bounce now, so it signs that he's good. But he hasn't scored in those 4 games either, by the way. And he's getting very little opportunity with England at the moment, Ollie Watkins. I still think that backup position to Harry Kane is up for grabs potentially, but the only person I can see coming in and taking that place from Ollie Watkins is potentially Liam Delap. And if and when he gets back fit, are there enough England camps left for him to prove his point? That's the debate.
I think Tuchel might see Rashford as maybe like the third.
I think that could be it. I think you're right. I mean, Gareth Southgate took 3 strikers, didn't he?
Yeah.
To the last Euros, and I think always has. I suspect Tuchel will take 2 and keep Rashford as a backup number 9. Right, let me get you to tie your colours to the mast then. England's starting 11 for that first game of the World Cup. And look, and unless Thomas Tuchel is trying to change things around on his fitness issues, of course, that's a different scenario. But what do you think he thinks his strongest 11 is?
I'll go Pickford to start that one. You can go next.
Go on, do your 11 first. Do your 11, then we'll ask Henry his 11.
And this is Tuchel's choice.
This is Tuchel. We'll do Tuchel's choice, and then we'll do our choice, because they will be different.
If fitness isn't an issue, Pickford, James.
Reece James right back.
Yeah, Stones, Gay
in the middle.
Livramento.
Okay, Livramento at left back.
Rice, Bellingham, Anderson. Saka
on the right,
Kane, and then on the left we've got maybe Gordon at the moment. I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too far off that. I think that's Stones or Konza, depending on fitness. But I think the team picks itself.
I think
more reason for having
that's
Bellingham
interesting.
here.
The 3 of us. I don't think I've ever asked you the question directly, and I agree with largely that. I'd probably have Lewis Skelly in ahead of Livramento, but he's got to get more time for Arsenal. Doesn't look like he's getting that at the moment.
Well,
with
Tuchel said the other day, it's not good. It's not enough to be a good citizen.
100%.
And he undoubtedly is, and he's undoubtedly talented, but he's not playing enough at the moment.
But the interesting thing here is, guys, it strikes me that if you ask most England fans, if you ask most England journalists, we'd probably agree on 9 of the 11. The positions that are still up for grabs: left back, wide left attacking, defensive midfield position. For me, that's been answered even within 2 games from Elliot Anderson coming in. As long as he doesn't have a huge drop off or get injured, I think he is England's number 6 that they've been looking for years, ever since Calvin Phillips, in truth. But beyond that, everything else feels pretty settled, doesn't it? Would you say?
I would make one change. I would have Trent Alexander-Arnold in. At right
Where'd you get him in? At right back?
At right back. And everyone talks about, has he got defensive weaknesses? Yes, remember Vinicius for Real Madrid in Paris in the Champions League final but it's not as if Liverpool have tried 4 or 5 right backs this season and they've not exactly covered themselves in glory defensively. I think when you've got someone who can turn defence into attack, and we've been talking about low blocks or mid blocks, and you've got someone, particularly if there's a mid block, and you've got someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold who can release Anthony Gordon with a switch, who can play it down the line to Saka, who can get Declan Rice bombing through the middle. I just look at those strengths. England have got to play their aces, their weapons like that, and that is leave Trent Alexander-Arnold out, I think would just be risky.
I don't see beyond Reece James at the moment, I've got to be honest.
I think Reece James will start, but I just think that Trent Alexander, obviously there are always injury issues, he's pulled out of this squad this week, hasn't he? I just think Trent Alexander-Arnold, he is such a special player.
Right, final question. Any left field shouts? There's normally somebody who comes through
Theo
late.
Walcott, 2006.
Well, go on.
If he gets back in, I really will be surprised.
Southampton legend.
But you must remember these players though that have made. You've covered so many tournaments and squads. There's always somebody that comes up on the rails that we weren't expecting at this stage in the season.
I mean, there was a huge debate about why Owen Hargreaves should go. Was that 2002? And there was a lot of criticism from the media, so much criticism that the FA actually almost locked us in a room, like sort of kittens, sort of finding out sort of the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And Owen Hargreaves in the middle, and I can't remember who it was. Someone asked him, he said, "Well, basically, what have you ever done?" And he just talked us through his Bayern Munich career and went, "Oh, okay, you're fine." So there is always that. I mean, obviously with no far more nowadays, there will be someone, whether it's a Nwaneri. I mean, but England have got players in that position. I get Morgan Rogers sort of plays in that position. But look, you look at the young players floating around here. But the only issue is that Tuchel is here for a short time.
One tournament.
He's not about. I mean, Trafford will obviously go as the third choice goalkeeper, but it's not in Tuchel. Tuchel's not bothered about the long term.
Thoughts?
I think the curveballs might be more experienced players. I mean, Thomas Tuchel himself has spoken about this kind of more agricultural football that has become more common, and the need for long throws and long balls. And maybe it is the fact that I watch too much Manchester United for a living, but I look at that squad and Luke Shaw, as not necessarily in that sense, but we're talking about the issues at left back. I don't think there is a better left back, English left back, when they're fit, which is obviously key. Harry Maguire's experience, I'm surprised he hasn't got. I asked Thomas Tuchel if he had a chance, if that was it for him, and he insisted it wasn't, and he could see him being involved in tournament football. And then you've got a Kobbie Mainoo and a Mason Mount.
I've got one more for you. How far are England going to go in this tournament? At what point are they going to get knocked out, or are they going to win the thing? Go on, you first, Peach.
Well, no pressure. I want us to win the thing. My hunch is quarter-final. I'm so used to quarterfinals with England at World Cup. Growing up, that always feels like where we would bow out, good but not quite good enough. I hope I'm wrong. We obviously got to the quarterfinal stage in Qatar, should have beaten France with the performance that we had, but we didn't take our chances. Hopefully we've learned from that. Hopefully we've learned from the other near misses at the Euros. But at the moment, quarterfinal is probably how I feel.
Go on, Henry, what are you thinking?
We have an elite coach, truly elite coach in Thomas Tuchel.
Hang on. Is he going to say it?
We are.
Is he going to say it?
No. I've been doing this too long. We always go into tournaments saying it's time to deliver, and there will be a buzz around England. It's logistically, cost-wise, it's going to be difficult for England fans, but they will go. And obviously there are a lot of England fans out there, so England will be well supported. So elite coach, elite support, elite squad, obviously slightly shallow in certain areas. But look at the other teams. Look at the other teams who've already qualified. Look at the teams out there. Look at the conditions, And I think quarterfinals, semi-finals at best.
I'm sorry to sound boring. I agree with you 100%. I think quarterfinals, and it is the heat. I stood there in Germany last summer with you guys, and it was hot. And I saw a lot of exhausted players, and they were telling us in every news conference, no, we're fine, conditioning's fine. Harry Kane looked exhausted, Jude Bellingham looked exhausted, virtually every player looked exhausted. We had Luke Shaw, who wasn't fit for the whole tournament. We were desperately trying to get him fit. That's my concern, is after a long, hard Premier League season, it affects England's players more than any other nation, and that's my fear. I think quarter-final is probably about it, but I hope I'm wrong.
But heat affects England when they don't keep the ball, and we've been having midfielders charging around all over the place. Play players who keep the ball. That's why Jude Bellingham should start.
Guys, thank you very much indeed for your time. Oh, absolutely fascinating. Simon Peach from PA Media and Henry Winter from Sports Illustrated. England's next game, by the way, is a small matter of England against Wales at Wembley on Thursday night, and we'll bring that to you on Sky Sports News, of course, as we always do, build up throughout the day.